Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be going over how could you absolutely not pick Subtlety Rogue when it comes to Shadowlands. This is a specialization back from the dead in a lot of situations in the game, and it's back with Fiery Vengeance. Absolute monster when it comes to single target in PvE, almost completely uncontested, and that translates over into PvP as well. You'll be crushing your enemies on this powerful specialization. You still have good fallbacks, if Battle for Azeroth, early Battle for Azeroth repeats itself here and Subtlety ends up getting nerfed. You've got good fallbacks in a reworked Outlaw to not rely so heavily on RNG, and Outlaw is still a massive powerhouse when it comes to AoE, one of the best, if not the best, in dungeons, and feels good in PvP actually as well if you wanted to opt for the Outlaw. But also you have Assassination as a fallback, which is still just a solid overall DPS spec and good feeling rogue kit. So you've got fallbacks in terms of plan. You're not just locking into Subtlety and, oh no, where am I going to go after that? You've got other options if it ends up getting nerfed. But as it stands right now, Subtlety is just absolutely insane. And the main purpose of the video is to just go over some of the things that you should expect with it, go over the Covenants, go over the Conduits, go over some of the Legendaries as options, because there's so much information right now, and it's, where do I go? What do I get? It's how do I do this? It's really confusing. So the main purpose of the video is to streamline that, simplify it, get you the information that you need so that you can get going on your Subtlety Rogue and start owning it up in the Shadowlands. And that's the main purpose of the video here. So just starting things off, one of the main reasons that Subtlety Rogue is so amazing in Shadowlands is that Find Weakness is baseline. It causes your cheap shot and Shadow Strike to reveal a flaw, causing all of your attacks to bypass 30% of that enemy's armor. This is a powerful passive in the past that really enabled Subtlety Rogue to have a lot of power, and it's back baseline. You can expect layers of cooldown with Shadow Dance on a 1-minute cooldown, allowing you to access your stealth abilities and increasing your damage by a large margin. Symbols of Death on the 30-second cooldown, increasing your damage by a further large margin by 15%, and a layer of 3-minute cooldowns to just add some icing on that massive burst damage, single target, absolutely wrecking ball cake. You will have Shadow Blades to just slap on top of that. You are the king of control, with Cheap Shot locking down multiple targets from stealth with Shadow Dance and Kidney Shot still, and bringing Blind to the table for a massive 8-second crowd control that is instant cast. So you are an absolute monster. Utility, you've got Feint, probably the best defensive utility in the game with its very low cooldown and decent, respectively low energy cost. It reduces incoming damage from AoE effects, and when talented, improves it even further. You have Smoke Bomb to line of sight incoming attackers or incoming healers, whether it's going to be in PvP to go for a kill or in PvE to maybe line of sight some ranged attackers and get them into the tank group. Bring a little bit of extra utility with Tricks of the Trade by providing some additional threat to your tank, and you can look forward to having Slice and Dice return baseline to all rogue specializations, which will just be increasing your attack speed. So you're gonna have a little bit more options. Poison's coming back as well for Subtlety. So if you're a player maybe who has played classic or older versions of Rogue, a lot of those old school spells have returned with all of this new stuff layered on top of it. And I have to say that it's just been phenomenal the way that it's been executed, and it's a top performer, and it's one of the most fun specializations. So now talking about Covenants, this is probably the most stressful decision you've had to make in this expansion. When it comes to PvP at the moment, Kyrian seems to be the lock-in for a lot of the top players. I think it is debatable in that department. I think that Necro Lord could be a viable option, providing you a ranged combo point generator, as well as immunity to crowd control through Fleshcraft, as Rogue is a spec in PvP specifically, where you're anticipating attackers. You can activate Fleshcraft, be immune to an incoming stun, and win a game because of that. I think that high impact actually does serve a purpose in PvP. If you're really dead set on running Necro Lord Rogue, I don't think that you would be completely out of competition, and I think that you would have the opportunity to make really high value plays. In PvE, Night Fae, I believe, is kind of the go-to at the moment. You can also make Night Fae work in PvP. The main reason that it kind of falls short is that the sepsis ability is a dispellable poison, so it can be counterplayed quite heavily. But the main purpose of the Night Fae Covenant, in my mind, for PvP is Korain, as the Soulbind provides you 10% more damage to targets above 75% health. So you can open on a target and burst it down. So I think that Night Fae, while it may be performing well in PvE, and PvE I feel like is something that could change at any time because it's just a matter of tuning it. A lot of the things that make one of these Soulbind Conduits or Covenants good in PvP I'm talking about, I don't think is going to change. So I think Night Fae you could make work if you're really dead set on it. You'd also get access to the Vulpin, the Blinking Vulpin. But right now, in my mind, Kyrian is sort of like the safe level one. Kyrian already got nerfed quite a bit, but it's going to work in all environments. I think it translates well to multiple specializations. And for me personally, Venthyr, I just want to avoid. The main reason I want to avoid Venthyr is that Flagellation is just very difficult to use and get through all of the stacks. You put up a dot and you get through all these stacks to increase your main stat, your haste, which is already not that great of a stat. If it had been mastery like it originally was, it would have been phenomenal, but it's very difficult to get to the maximum stacks. You run the risk of the mob you're attacking dying. You run the risk of it falling off before you get to activate it in PvP. Venthyr was just, I wanted to avoid. Unfortunately, it was tough for me to find a spot where I felt like, yeah, Venthyr could be good here. But as far as the other options, I think in PvP would be great. In PvE, again, you're going to run the risk of them being tuned at any time out of being the #1 DPS performer. So I wouldn't worry about it unless you're a world first raider or you're going to be trying to compete in the MDI, specifically picking it for just the throughput and output. Picking it based on its utility or what you're going to enjoy the most is probably going to be a better option because you never know, and you can always switch later on. And that's why I would say pick the one that you want to play first, because if it gets nerfed or something changes or didn't work out, you can easily switch to the other Covenant. However, if you pick one that you felt was the strongest and you just picked it because everyone said it was strong, and then you switch to the one you wanted for fun, to go back is really annoying. If you went to the fun one, left for the fun one, then wanted to go back, it's going to become very annoying to go back to the original performing one. So in my mind, it's better. It's the start of the expansion. Unless you're a world first player, go for the one that you like and is most fun. The video, I just wanted to provide you the information for the Covenants and my thoughts for their overall usage. But now let's talk about Legendaries. For me, because I'm a versatile player and I like to have options, I was looking mostly at the Mark of the Master Assassin. While stealth is active and for 4 seconds after breaking stealth, your critical strike chance is increased by 100%. This gives you massive burst damage, and it's great on your openers going mob to mob in dungeons, and then more importantly for myself at least in PvP, you're just going to absolutely crush people. It was pretty just straightforward. This is a legendary that I saw rogues using a lot, as the other ones that were getting nerfed, most of the ones that just did extra damage and weren't really that interactive with the spec. So my eyes were all on the Mark of the Master Assassin, and as a legendary I would personally go after, and it can be used for all specializations, all content, because it's a versatile legendary, but it's probably obviously going to be a bit more strong in PvP than PvE. Soulbind Conduits, if you're going to run Kyrian and run the kind of standard build, then Pelagos is kind of the name of the game here. While Mechanicos does have great utility in PvP, specifically if you want to be anti-rogue or a good dueler, the Sparkling Drift Globe core, when reduced below 35%, you stun nearby enemies for 3 seconds. It doesn't DR with your other stuns, and it's every 45 seconds. You will almost never die to another rogue. So if you're fighting one-on-one against rogues, Mechanicos is anti-rogue. He's going to be the playmaker there. But for Pelagos, it's kind of just straightforward overall damage. And this build that I've come up with, again, is focusing on versatility. So it's not a lot of grinding to unlock. And it's also just going to be a solid performer, maybe not the top 1.1%, but you're going to grind less for it. It's going to be usable in more content. And if that's appealing to you, then this build will be more appealing, and it may have a little bit of a PvP tilt, because I feel like in PvP, your throughput and performance matters a lot more than PvE. I could get any of the in-game achievements with random conduits, honestly, when it comes to PvE. But when I'm playing PvP and I lost to somebody, I'm like, oh man, if I had that conduit of 1, I think it matters more to myself personally. But one of the main reasons Pelagos is so great is that when you activate your Covenant ability, which we haven't actually talked about, Echoing Reprimand, which is 45-second cooldown, you deal 2,000 damage, and you extract anima from the target, so that now when you use it, it'll have an anima on the combo points, and then you need to use that many combo points. So if its anima appears on the third one, you got to use 3, and if you use 3, it will do as much damage as a 7 combo point. Really good for scaling with mastery and all that stuff we talked about before with Shadow Dance and damage scaling off Find Weakness. You get a 7 combo point Eviscerate. You go into maybe a Mark for Death Eviscerate after that. That's huge damage on the Subtlety Rogue, and that's why I felt like it's being picked as kind of the standard. You also get the Summoning Steward, which will just give you a poison vial to remove poisons and bleeds and stuff such like that. With Feral Druids being really strong in PvP, that's going to be a great option. All of the dungeons pretty much when I ran them had bleeds, so your healer's really going to thank you when you have that and you're paying attention to your debuffs. But hey, you're PvEing as DPS, you probably you got more important things to do than pay attention to your own debuffs maybe. But for me, this is the conduit you're going to get right away pretty much when you ding max level. Echoing, it's just your potency conduit for your Soulbind or for your Covenant ability. It's just going to increase the damage of Echoing Reprimand by 50%. And with all those Find Weakness scaling and all that, I think that this will likely add a lot of damage to your overall burst window. Moving down to Endurance, I felt like at a high level, you're going to want to play Nimble Fingers. Energy cost of Feint and Crimson Vial reduced by 5 so that you can feint more often and readily when you need to, and Crimson Vial as well. However, if you're going to run solo content, for sustainability on the Subtlety Rogue, then I would have to recommend the Recuperator. It's nerfed in PvP, which is also the main reason why I felt like Nimble Fingers was better overall. But if you're going to be running Torias, you're going to be running raids, Recuperator is an endurance conduit is great. It's just going to make your Slice and Dice heal you as well. Moving down to the second potency, I opted for the Symbols of Death, increasing your critical strike chance by 4% to just try and get more overall crit. And crit right now is more valuable in PvP than it was before, as it's been buffed as a stat in PvP. It was nerfed in PvP if you didn't know that. So for me, I just wanted to get more crit damage out during my Symbols of Death and really focus on massive Eviscerate, big numbers on my screen. And then for the Finesse conduit here, I've opted for energy reduction on Kidney Shot, Cheap Shot, Sap, and Distract, so that you can get all the stuns off, peel for the team, set up in PvP, and still get your massive damage spells off and really smooth everything out. And it's just going to get better as it ranks up. And then finally, Let Go of the Past, which has been nerfed. But now you're going to be getting magic damage reduction, which is always valuable in PvP because there's probably 2 classes in the game that don't deal any magic damage at all, and they're specs that kind of suck in PvP. And then in PvE, you're also getting a little bit more damage mitigation for surviving through any sorts of mechanics as well. And that's pretty much it here for Soulbind Conduits, Legendaries. We talked about the build. We talked about how amazing this spec is, how amazing the class is overall right now. For Subtlety Rogue, I really don't, or for Rogue in general, I don't think that you can go wrong. It's a really well-built class. I love what they've done with Outlaw and Subtlety in terms of returned spells and reducing RNGs for Outlaw. And Assassination is just carried over with its already phenomenal strengths from Battle for Azeroth. Rogue is a good go. Rogue is a good go right now in Shadowlands. So if you're worried about it, it seemed intimidating. You know, I think a lot of players think Subtlety Rogue is intimidating. I think now that more than ever, you'll have the leveling to get comfortable with the class and really teach yourself how to play going through it. And I think you'll have a good time with it. So that's it for my video here on Subtlety Rogue, and should you main it, which we probably already gave away within the first 5 seconds of the video, but appreciate you sticking through here for my build and my opinion on your options for the Subtlety Rogue in Shadowlands. If you liked the video, please leave it with a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. It's absolutely free, and if you want content uploaded to you every single day, well, that's what I do here. So I'll be providing my opinion and updates to classes, changes, as I see them, quite literally, hour after it's released. I'm uploading videos. You will always be up to date here on the channel. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. Comment down below with your thoughts on what you're going to be playing in Shadowlands. Would love to hear it. And I will see you in the next video.